G'day guys, just wanted to make another quick video discussing one of the more permanent 9/11 conspiracy theories, that the FBI seized 85 videos from businesses surrounding the Pentagon and have never released them. We're going to have a look at where this 85 video claim came from, the truth about the contents of these 85 videos, and a review of the footage that we do actually have. First, 85 videos seems an oddly specific number of videos. Where did this figure come from? Well, the truth is, it actually came from an FBI response to a Freedom of Information Act request by a guy named Scott Bingham. In it, Jacqueline McGuire, a special agent at the FBI who was involved in the Pent Bomb investigation, states, "I searched a series of FBI evidence databases, including the FBI's electronic case file system and the FBI's investigative case management system, and determined that the FBI possessed 85 videos that might be potentially responsive to the plaintiff's Freedom of Information Act request. This determination was based on videotapes that had been submitted to the FBI, sent directly to the FBI laboratory in Virginia, and or obtained by the FBI's Washington field office." Well, aha, I hear you say. They admit it right there, 85 videos, look. Well, no, and this is why it pays to read beyond the first line. It would seem, based on this first part, that Jacqueline has found 85 tapes that might match Scott's Freedom of Information Act request. Does this mean she's found 85 tapes of the Pentagon impact? Well, it would seem her search through the FBI evidence database must have been very broad in order to yield the number of results that she did, because she goes on to clarify. "I determined, through an examination of the chain of custody and other written supporting documentation associated with each videotape, that 56 of these videotapes did not show either the Pentagon building, the Pentagon crash site, or the impact of Flight 77 into the Pentagon on September 11, 2001. That's right, 56 of the 85 didn't show the Pentagon at all, let alone the impact. Why? Because, as she details in the attached breakdown of these videos, all 56 of these videos came from outside of Washington, D.C. It kind of goes to show just how broad her search must have been through the FBI databases in order to sort of try and collect as many 9/11 videos as possible. So, for example, a lot of these were videos that came from the World Trade Center incident. Some came from New Jersey. About 8 of them came from a Kinko's in South Florida. Many of these tapes were blank. They hadn't yet been recorded on. So 2/3 of these 85 tapes were not even remotely relevant to the Pentagon attack. She then continues, "I personally viewed the remaining 29 videotapes. I determined that 16 of these videotapes did not show the Pentagon crash site and did not show the impact of Flight 77 into the Pentagon." So a further 16 of these tapes were from Washington, D.C., but did not show the Pentagon crash site. They were videos of witnesses taken from around the Pentagon or near the Pentagon, but did not show the crash site itself. That makes 72 tapes out of these 85 that are completely irrelevant to the impact of Flight 77. Of the remaining 13 videotapes, which did show the Pentagon crash site, 12 videotapes only showed the Pentagon after the impact of Flight 77. So only one video she found shows the impact of Flight 77. She also mentions the Citgo gas station footage was taken to the forensic audio video image analysis team because of its poor quality, but determined it did not capture the impact of Flight 77, although we'll touch on something it did capture at the end of this video. Finally, she concludes they did not have any CCTV footage from the Sheraton Hotel, but she did locate a video from the Doubletree Hotel, which she determined did not show the impact. So that's it. Of the 85 tapes that, quote, might be potentially applicable to the FOIA request, 56 of them were not even from Washington, D.C. A further 16 of them did not show the Pentagon crash site or impact, and of the 13 remaining, 12 of them were all from after the crash. She determined that only one videotape had footage of the Pentagon impact. That videotape was recorded from 2 cameras at the entranceway to the Pentagon. In the first camera, most of the aircraft is unfortunately hidden behind the barrier mechanism in the forefront of the camera. But on the second camera, we actually capture a full shot of the aircraft. Furthermore, the Citgo gas station footage did actually capture something. One of its cameras captured the shadow of Flight 77 as it went over. I plan to detail these tapes better in another video, and I'll post a link in the description below when that's released. So in conclusion, no, there are not 85 videos showing the impact at the Pentagon that the FBI are holding on to and are never releasing. The simple truth is, Jacqueline went to search the FBI databases, used a very broad search term to obviously pull in as much as she could, and she then went through those results and filtered down to the ones that were relevant to the Pentagon. So she originally found 85 based on her very broad search. She then narrowed it down to 13 which are relevant to the Pentagon, and only one of those showed the Pentagon before impact. Of all these videos that were found, all 13 of them were released back to the public through John Farmer's FOIA requests about a decade ago. Once again, this is just a simple case of if these 9/11 conspiracy theorists had actually gone and read the original documentation that this 85 videos came from, then they would very quickly discover an explanation to it. But clearly most 9/11 conspiracy theorists don't go looking for the original documentation, so it's kind of par for the course at this point. But time to get their conspiracy hat back on. There is more footage that the FBI does in fact have. This footage is not included in these 85 tapes and may potentially have come from the cameras at the heliport. To explain a little further, following Scott Bingham's Freedom of Information Act request, John Farmer, who goes under the name BCR on the JREF forums, continued Scott's work and secured the release of all of these tapes that were identified in the 85 relevant to the Pentagon attack. John discovered there is additional footage that the FBI had yet to account for. They were discovered when he found a receipt for the hard drives and video footage among the NARA documents. His Freedom of Information Act efforts to release the relevant Pentagon tapes was already done, so he passed the torch on to another who went about filing with the FBI to get this additional footage released. FBI confirms they did indeed have a record of the footage, but couldn't find it in the locations the records indicated. Or, in other words, they lost them. Now, as frustrating as it is, and as nice as it would have been to see that footage, it's far from a deal breaker. We know from the extensive collection of Pentagon evidence that I've compiled on my blog that Flight 77 hit the Pentagon. Whether we had extra footage or not, it doesn't change that fact. And as to how they lost them, well, I'll leave you with the ending of Indiana Jones to give you an idea of probably why they can't find it. Cheers, guys.